I have my oven already preheated for 350 degrees. And while that is warming up, I'm going to add 2 cups of old-fashioned oats. Everything I buy is organic because I do not want pesticides. I am using a 1/2 cup. So I'm going to use 4 1/2 cups, which equals 2 cups. So I'm going to work with all my dry ingredients first, and then I will add the wet ingredients. Next, I'm going to use baking powder, and mine is aluminum free, and I'm going to use 1 tablespoon. I'm using a teaspoon, and 3 teaspoons equals 1 tablespoon. So there we go. And then I'm going to use baking soda. And for this, I'm going to use 1 teaspoon. And I'm not using salt, so that's why I add a little bit more baking powder than most people are used to. So 1 teaspoon of baking soda. You want to level it off. And the last dry ingredient is cinnamon. And we are using 1 tablespoon of cinnamon. Plug this in and grind this into a flour. I've got my gluten-free flour. Now, oats are naturally gluten-free. The only times they're not is if they're cross-contaminated with other flours. So I've got the flour here, and I'm just gonna put this into another bowl so that I could put it aside and add it to the wet ingredients. I have 3 very ripe bananas. I wanted medium. These are probably kind of large, but ideally medium, and remove any strings. Probably doesn't matter since I'm blending it all together, but I always do. And then you want to break this up into little small pieces. The smaller the better, because it'll be easier for your food processor to break these up, because you want it to be very, very creamy. And if there's dark spots, that just means that those sections are very ripe, and they may not taste good if you just eat them plain, but if you blend them up, it'll be fine, because those are actually very, very sweet. So keep those in. And then I've got 1 more banana to put in here. I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, and I got this from my neighbor's yard. Don't worry, I didn't steal it. We got permission. Oh, how pretty. I'm going to use an apple instead of sweetener. The bananas add sweetness, so does the cinnamon and the vanilla, and this combination will make it nice and sweet. Now, normally I do skin on apples. It has a lot of nutrition, but in this, I definitely want to peel it. I don't want anything too thick. I just want the sweetness from the apple. I don't like using juice because then you're removing the healthy fiber with all the benefits that fiber has. You want to keep as much fiber in your food as possible. So I am just peeling it, and heck, maybe I'll eat the peel separately. Peel is pretty tasty. If you add some cinnamon on it, rub the cinnamon into it, it's pretty good. So I'm going to seed it, I'm going to core it, show you how I do it. Add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and I like this one because it is in glycerin, so it's pretty sweet. So that's why this adds a little bit of sweetness. So I like a lot of vanilla flavors, so I'm going to put 2 teaspoons. But it's definitely not overpowering. Still has a little subtle vanilla flavor. So I'm going to blend this up. Now I'm going to add my liquid pureed apple banana mixture to the wet ingredients. Now I'm making mine low fat, so I'm not adding any nuts, but nuts are of a wonderful crunch and they really do make it delicious. So if you want to make it low fat, then just omit the nuts or use less. Otherwise, I've got some dry, no oil walnuts, and these are raw, and so just use 1/3 cup and just add them to this. We'll just mix that in with a spoon. I have 1/2 cup of frozen pineapple. I'm just going to make these into little smaller pieces, so I'm just going to dice them. So I don't want the pineapple to be overpowering. I just want little teeny bites of the pineapple. So these little tiny, see how small they are? Just little tiny bits. And then I'm going to put them back in the wet ingredients and just stir it. I don't want to blend it, because if I blend it, it will just be too small. So I do want to taste the little bits of pineapple. I don't want my bread to stick to the pan, so what I did is I lined it with parchment paper. And what I also found as a trick is I sprinkle a little bit of water on the bottom. You can see it's a little bit wet there. It helps this stay in place. So now I'm just going to pour the batter into the pan. I'm just going to use the back of the spoon to even it out. And because the spoon does not really do the best job, the last thing I do is I press the tines of a fork gently into the batter, going over it just a few times just to make sure it's all even. The oven is preheated, and now I'm just going to bake this at 350 degrees for about 40 minutes. Isn't this beautiful? So what I like to do is I like to cut it in half, because my husband and I will eat this entire loaf in one day. So sometimes I make a new one every day, every morning. And so that's his has the nuts. And so I'll have a half for breakfast, and then I'll have another half for a snack later. And this is very few calories. It's, for a quarter of this, 276 calories. It has 7 grams of protein and 50 grams of carbs and only 3 grams of fat. Now that's because I didn't use the walnuts on mine. And I just love the little bits of pineapple. Gosh. Yum. It's still a little hot. So I let it cool for 20 minutes. So I probably should have let it cool a little bit longer. Look how moist. And it's good the next day. And I just put it in the fridge after it's cool. And it's good cold too. So I'll put the steps and the ingredients below, and let me know if you have any questions.